The police exit their patrol car and cautiously enter Duke's. The night spot, known for its live jazz band and mellow vibes, is silent, except for the faint hissing of the speakers. Their flashlights sweep across torn tables, claw-ripped walls, and bodies piled and mutilated like something tore through them fast and enjoyed it. One cop whispers to the other, "What did this?" That's when they hear the breathing. It's low and raspy. Then the flashlights see a body curled up on the floor, a young male bleeding from a wound on his shoulder. It's Tyshawn Red, the man who called. "Are you okay, sir?" they ask. Then something steps over his barely breathing body. Their lights hit a clawed foot, then sweep up, and a vicious feral werewolf is already mid-leap. Yellow eyes blazing, its jaws wide, claws flashing through the light. They scream, and the radios go silent.
"911, what's your emergency?"
My name is Tyshawn Red. My voice was low and carried a hint of dread. I'm at Duke's Lounge, and there is a werewolf in here, and she's gonna kill me. The operator paused like she was trying to process what I said. "Are you saying someone is trying to kill you, sir?" I shake my head even though she can't see me. "No, Zaria. She is the werewolf. She is gonna kill me and everyone in here. Send a car. Now!" The music is still playing. The bass thumping, like glasses clinking, okay, people laughing, that they have no idea. I hang up and I see her, the girl I had a crush on as a kid, the girl that was my first, Zaria Taylor, 11 years older. She still looks incredible. Her long braids cascading over her shoulders. She's wearing a black dress that is hugging every curve. Her makeup, if any, is flawless, and her smile is still radiant and dazzling. Like I remembered, I guess that's why I'm scared, because I know what's under that beautiful exterior and the lipstick and the perfume, under that sexy, calm exterior, is something that tore through my neighborhood and family like paper. She isn't just dangerous, she is death. Oh no. Now she's looking at me. She steps towards me, slow, deliberate. The crowd shifts, trapping me deeper into the corner of the bar. I can't breathe. Scared isn't the word, and terrified doesn't even cover it. Because Zaria Taylor isn't just a woman, she's a werewolf. A lobisamen. That's what my father called it. I remember the night I saw it with my own eyes. She sniffs the air and locks eyes onto me, then tilts her head, the same way she did 11 years ago. Same angle, same stillness, and just like that, the music in Duke's Lounge fades. The bass turns into something else, a memory.
What if I told you the most dangerous predators don't live in the woods? They live next door. They wave. They barbecue. They help shovel snow. They watch your kids grow up. And sometimes, they watch you. Welcome back to the channel. Tonight's story is called The Wolves Next Door. This isn't about strangers in dark forests. This is about trust, community, love, obsession, and the girl next door. And what happens when something inhuman slips quietly into suburbia and waits. Before we begin, if you enjoy layered horror, grounded characters, and stories that feel just a little too real, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Every subscription, every comment, every share, it helps this channel grow. And I see you. We've been building something powerful here, and it's because of you. If you haven't already, check out my novels. Blood in Brooklyn, a dark urban supernatural thriller, and The Hunt for Dogman, parts 1 and 2, available in ebook, paperback, and audiobook. Links are in the description. Now, turn the lights down, because the family on Cedar Ridge Drive was never just a family. Let's begin.
I remember when we moved in next door to the Taylors. Back then, they were everything my parents said success looked like. Andre Taylor, sharp suits, downtown law firm, handshake firm enough to make you stand up straighter. Alicia Taylor, fresh realtor license, polished smile, already talking about investment properties like she'd been doing it for years. They were the quintessential black power couple, educated, polished, connected. My dad respected that. My mom admired it. Our two families fit together naturally. My father's contracting business had finally paid off into big municipal projects, commercial builds, enough money to move us out of the city and into a quiet Michigan subdivision with manicured lawns and two-car garages. I was 4 same age as Zaria. Even then I knew I had a crush on her. Her older brother Alex was 7. He teased us relentlessly about it. We all grew up together. Driveway basketball, hide and seek, sprinklers in the summer. But it was those school bus mornings with Zaria that I enjoyed most. We sat together, and even though we had most of the same classes, we always found new things to talk about. Even our parents talked every day. Our moms would stand in the driveway, coffee cups in hand, trading neighborhood updates, keeping each other abreast of the latest dirt, my mom would joke. My dad and Andre would sit outside on each other's porch and talk about sports or whatever stuff most men talked about. My dad always told me, this is the exposure I want you to have. These are the kind of people you should associate with. He meant educated, professional, ambitious. He meant stability. And for 7 years, that's exactly what they were, and my neighborhood was too. We weren't just residents on a street. We were intertwined. Everyone on our street knew when we go to work, when we come home. We policed each other in a neighborly way, picked up mail and newspapers when we knew we would be on vacation. If someone was sick, we brought soup, shoveled snow, took out and picked up trash bins. We knew almost everything about each other. That's why when the Taylors said that for their summer vacation they were heading to Brazil, my mom and dad nodded because they knew the routine. Pick up the mail and packages, turn on lights at night. No one suspected anything when the Taylors came back 2 weeks late from their vacation. 2 weeks wasn't enough to trigger alarms on Cedar Ridge Drive, but people were concerned and relieved when the Uber dropped them off that afternoon, each one of them looking miserable and angry, hungry. We all just assumed they had a rough experience getting back. I remember when Zaria called me, she was excited they arrived in Brazil and told me they were going to see different parts of the country, remote villages. She even promised to bring me back a souvenir. Andre looked irritated the most the first week back. Shorter fuse, jaw tight, eyes darker under the lids. He kept rubbing his leg and mumbling how it still stings. My dad blamed the stress of the cost he probably had to pay for the extra unplanned week. International travel will test your patience, he said over the grill. Andre forced a laugh. Alicia and Zaria smiled wide, too wide. Their eyes looked off to me, but I was 12, and I had an overactive imagination. By the time school started in September, I noticed Zaria was different, not in a horror movie way, subtle. She'd wore her hair different and brush up against me when we sat in class together, and it seemed like she was keeping other girls away from me. I didn't think much about it because I secretly liked when she did it, but it was the other things I should have paid attention to, like when she leaned over to me in math and said, "I smell Angelo's pizza," but Angelo's was 4 miles away, or she'd flinch and say, "Someone just opened a soda." We'd be in the middle of English, the cafeteria was 2 floors below, no sound, no pop, just her nose and ears twitching slightly. At first I thought she was joking, then I realized she wasn't. Alex, her brother, changed too. He'd always been competitive, but now it was something else. At basketball practice, he started shoving harder, elbows higher, teeth clenched, snarling and trying to bite other players. Coach warned him twice, then he got kicked off the team for uncontrolled aggression. Andre, Alicia, and Zaria defended him publicly. Privately, I saw the bruises on Alex's forearms, deep crescent-shaped marks, like he'd been grabbed tight based on the marks on his skin, but they seemed like they were made by a bigger hand, bigger than any human hand, but it still didn't feel supernatural. It felt just a little more stressful. We all brushed it off, until Miss Mabel. Miss Mabel lived at the end of the cul-de-sac, retired, early 70s, curtains always slightly parted, the unofficial neighborhood watch. She called the HOA meeting in October, said she'd been seeing big dogs in her backyard at night. Not coyotes, bigger, walking wrong, standing like people. Like she said, some residents laughed. Some tried to say she might be looking for attention. She actually claimed she saw a UFO and caused the news and FBI to intrude on our peace for 2 weeks. And now the fact is, suburbs get coyotes all the time, and sometimes those coyotes get big, but standing up? Some maybe walking. She might have seen a bear. But then she said something that made my stomach drop. She said they were looking at my house, directly at me, watching them. The room got quiet for just a second. My dad cleared his throat at the HOA meeting, that steady contractor confidence in his voice. "I'll install motion lights for you, Miss Mabel," he said. "Bright ones. That'll scare anything off. I'll also get you some quotes on fencing, something higher, reinforced, just in case. Practical, fixable." That's how we handled things on Cedar Ridge Drive. Luke and Sabrina, who lived next to Miss Mabel, nodded in agreement. Luke leaned back in his folding chair, arms crossed over a chest. Their son Jackson stood beside him, already taller than most of us, quiet but observant. They were the hunters of the block, fishing trips every spring, deer season every fall, freezers stocked with venison, and the best jerky in the state. At least that's what Luke claimed. "It's not unlike coyotes to drift this far out," Luke said calmly. "Maybe she left food out. Maybe some bears are nesting near the tree line." Jackson nodded, once agreeing. "We'll check for tracks tonight." Everyone relaxed after that, because if there was something in those woods, it was about to meet Michigan's version of Daniel Boone, Davy Crockett, and G.I. Joe, wrapped in a mullet and his son. Everyone handled it neighborly. We went home feeling like adults had solved the problem. That night I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Something felt wrong, not dramatic, just unsettled. Then I heard it, a howl, long, powerful, directed. I sat up so fast my sheets twisted around my legs. I rushed to the window and looked out. The street was barely lit under the crescent moonlight. Another howl answered it. Then 2 more, all from the woods at the end of the cul-de-sac, behind Miss Mabel's home, but deeper than the tree line, further back than where us kids used to build forts. These weren't animals skirting fences. These were sounds coming from somewhere that didn't want to be found. Headlights flicked on across the street. Luke's garage door lifted. Then the sound of small gas-powered engines roared to life. 2 quad-wheel bikes rolled down the cul-de-sac, tires crunching slow at first, then accelerating. They turned toward the tree line, toward the howls. I stood there smiling because those coyotes or whatever was making that noise was about to learn it picked the wrong suburb. But as their taillights disappeared into the woods, the howling stopped. It didn't trail off, it just stopped, like it had heard them coming. Then his shots rang out loud, echoing through the trees. Seconds later there were roars and screams, followed by a cold, deafening silence. The kind that feels like the night itself is holding its breath. I remember lying there staring into the dark, heart racing at first, then slowly settling as reason pushed its way in. Luke and Jackson were hunters. Whatever had been out there didn't stand a chance. I pulled the blanket tighter and told myself it was over and Luke and Jackson will have some funny story or anecdote about the screams and shooting. That's what I kept telling myself until I drifted off another Cedar Ridge problem handled. I woke up to screaming, not outside, but inside our house. It was my mother's voice, frightened, trembling, telling someone to sit down, to breathe, to please just breathe. Moments later, there came pounding on the front door, loud and relentless. Police, a lot of officers and detectives, radios crackling, boots on wood floors, voices overlapping. I came down the stairs slowly, confused, half awake, and saw Sabrina. She was on our couch, shaking so violently her teeth were chattering. Her voice was gone, shredded raw from screaming. She kept repeating the same words over and over. They're gone. They're gone. They're gone. Later, I learned what happened. She had called 911 at 12:03 a.m. Her voice on the recording was barely sober or sane, hysterical, gasping. She told him a werewolf was staring at her through her window, and it held up a piece of Luke's shirt, and Luke stopped answering his radio. One of their quads was still visible through the trees, headlights on, engine running, but no movement, no voices, nothing. She kept saying she knew something was wrong, terribly wrong. Then she said something that made the dispatcher pause. She said Luke's last transmission had been panicked and confused. He said, "There are two of them in front of us and near the clearing." Then he called to Jackson. He said, "There are two more behind us," and open fire. Those were the exact words. Then screams and ungodly roars and shots fired. Then nothing. When the police reached the clearing, they found Luke first, or what was left of him. Part of his leg had been chewed, not torn, in a frenzy, gnawed, like something had been feeding while moving, carrying, sampling. Large canine prints surrounded the area, suppressed into the soil with unnatural weight. Jackson's body was 30 yards deeper in. His quad lay on its side nearby, one wheel still slowly turning. The officers later said his face still held the expression of the moment he understood what was happening, shock frozen into his features by rigor mortis. He hadn't run. He hadn't had time. Based on the blood pattern, he'd been torn apart exactly where he stood. Luke had met a similar fate. But Luke had tried to retreat, tried to make it back to the quad. He didn't make it far. His torso was found up in a tree, higher than any man could have thrown it, higher than any animal should have climbed while carrying that kind of weight. The ground around both kill sites was destroyed, deep gouges carved through the soil, branches snapped like brittle bones, earth churned and packed down in heavy circular patterns, like something massive had struck, thrashed, and then simply stopped. No long chase, no dragged bodies, no scattered pursuit, just violence, concentrated, efficient, final. They found Luke's rifle, necks bent, the barrel curved sideways like soft metal, the stock nearly split in half, dark dried blood coated the grip. 3 spent shells still sat in the chamber, exactly 3. He had fired 3 times, and whatever was out there hadn't even bothered to take the weapon away. No one spoke for several minutes. Even the radios went silent. Then someone noticed the tracks, a trail leading away from the kill sites, toward the subdivision, toward Miss Mabel's house. 4 distinct sets of canine prints, clear, deep, and large, but something about them made one officer kneel down longer than the others. He called another officer over, then a third. One of them said quietly, "They're walking upright." I remember hearing that and thinking, that couldn't be right. Miss Mabel's front door wasn't open. It was twisted inward, wood splintered and curled like it had been peeled apart, furniture overturned, rugs dragged, deep scoring marks along the walls. The signs of struggle stopped abruptly in the center of the room, like she didn't or couldn't fight back. It just ended, like whatever entered didn't chase her, didn't need to. It outnumbered her. When they carried out the first body bag, the entire street fell silent. Not curious silent, funeral silent. Then another stretcher followed, and another. Police tape went up everywhere, even across the entrance to the cul-de-sac. Officers stepped carefully, following each other's footprints. avoiding untouched ground like it might still be dangerous, and neighbors gathered in tight clusters, whispering, crying, holding each other. That's when the tailors stepped outside, Andre in a robe, Alicia wrapped tight against the cold, Alex rigid beside them, Zaria silent, Yerke, her braided hair looked out of place, all of them barefoot, watching. They looked tired, not shocked, not shattered like Sabrina, or shocked like everyone else, just composed, answering questions calmly, like they rehearsed them. I watched as Zaria fixed her braids, then met my gaze, almost smiling. Then I noticed as Andre shifted slightly, his robe opened just enough, revealing bandaging, thick, fresh, wrapped across his shoulder, clean white gauze, faintly spotted red. He said one of his clients had been dissatisfied with his legal defense that attacked him in court. Then, very calmly, he told the officers that if they wished to question him further, they would need warrants. He was a lawyer, after all. Procedures mattered. Rights mattered. He smiled politely. Then the tailors went back inside. My father stepped forward next. Steady voice. Professional tone. I install motion lights for Miss Mabel. They're connected to security cameras. I can pull the footage if you need it. Relief crossed the officers' faces. Evidence. Something real. Something explainable. But I wasn't watching the police. I wasn't really listening to my father. I just watched the tailors go into their heim. Then I noticed something else. All of them standing there in the pale morning light. Barefoot. Not shifting, not shivering, not reacting to the cold pavement at all. That's what stayed with me. The tailors were always polished, slippers for summer, slippers for winter, never stepping outside half dressed. But now they stood there barefoot, still, untouched by the cold, and that thought stayed wedged in my mind like something I couldn't shake. Something about them had changed. The detectives and a few cops came inside. My mother and Sabrina sat frozen on the sofa while my father connected the security system to the living room TV. The detective stood close behind him, silent, waiting. He told me to go to my room, but I slipped halfway up the stairs and watched from the shadows. The footage flickered on. At first just darkness, then movement. 4 massive canine shapes emerged from the tree line, moving in a tight, deliberate formation, not wandering, not hunting, advancing. The one in front clutched its shoulder like it was injured. Then, without hesitation, they reached Miss Mabel's house and forced the door inward like it weighed nothing. The room around me went completely still. We watched them disappear inside, and moments later they burst back out, sprinting toward the woods as one. Sabrina screamed. No one else made a sound, because what we had just seen should not have existed. But there they were, 4 towering canine creatures, feral, the savage, moving with the precision of a pack. What the hell are those? My dad whispered. No one answered him. The police officers and detectives stood frozen in front of the television, the flickering security footage casting pale light across their faces. You could see it in their eyes, training failing, logic collapsing, something primal rising where certainty used to live. They had no framework for what they just watched, no procedure, no report form, and no explanation. They left fast, like staying near that screen made it real. The detectives didn't have that luxury. They had to stay. They had to try and create a logical theory for something illogical, because my mother had questions, my father had questions, and Sabrina had grief sharpened into anger. Every answer they tried sounded thin, hollow, rehearsed. Unidentified animals, unusual behavior. We need further analysis or words that contained or collapsed the moment they touched reality. Sabrina stood up so suddenly the couch cushions bounced. Her face was streaked with tears, but her eyes weren't wet anymore. They were burning. That's what killed them, she said, pointing at the frozen image on the TV. You saw it. You all saw it. So don't stand here and tell me you don't know what that is. The detectives didn't answer, because they couldn't. She stormed toward the door, hands shaking, breath coming in sharp bursts like she couldn't get enough air into her lungs. My mother followed her, caught her arm gently. "Sabrina, wait, please." Sabrina turned, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her, like something had hollowed her out overnight. "You can't go back to that house," my mother said softly. "Not now. Not tonight. Stay with us. Just stay." Sabrina hesitated, then nodded once, a single exhausted motion. By that afternoon, we were bringing her suitcases inside our guest bedroom. She packed one family photo carefully wrapped in towels so the glass wouldn't break. No one spoke much. Grief makes houses quiet. Fear makes them quieter. That night, Sabrina slept in our house, or at least she lay there with the door closed. No one really slept, not after what we'd seen the day before, not after what we now knew lived just beyond the tree line. By 10 p.m., the night didn't just grow quiet, it broke. Not with a distant howl, with a sound so violent it felt like something had slammed into the world itself. A roar, deep, guttural, full of rage, ripped through the air. Then came the smashing wood cracking, glass exploding, something heavy slamming into walls again, and again, and again, and underneath it all, a wet, tearing sound, like fabric being ripped slowly, like meat separating. It was coming from Sabrina's house. My parents heard it the same moment I did. You know how sometimes a family just moves together without speaking? That happened. We rushed down the hallway toward the guest room. Door open, lights off, bed perfectly made, too perfectly. Sabrina was gone. Those screams were hers and coming from inside her home. We ran to the front door and threw it open. Cold air hit my face, sharp and damp and wrong. Her house lights were flickering like something inside kept hitting the walls. Shadows moved across the windows, got fast. Something slammed against the front door from the inside. Then gunshots, each one swallowed by another roar. Then a scream that cut off so suddenly it felt like the air itself had been ripped away. My father stepped forward. "Lock the door behind me," he said quietly. "If I need in, I'll knock." He walked toward her house. Slowly, like walking toward danger would somehow make it smaller. My mother and I stood frozen in our doorway, watching, trying to understand what our minds refused to name. Then Sabrina's front door exploded outward, not opened, exploded. Wood splintered and twisted like it had been torn apart by something that didn't know doors were supposed to stop you, and they came out, one, then another, then another, then another, a pack, 7 feet tall, but not bulky, not muscular, lean, starved looking, all angles and stretched limbs. Their arms hung too long, hands tipped with claws that clicked against the pavement, their backs curved wrong. Their movement was jerky, twitching at our predatory, like they were barely contained inside their own bodies. Fur hung in wet, uneven patches. Their ribs showed, their mouths open, breathing fast like strings of dark fluid trailing from their teeth. They didn't run like animals. They flowed, silent, purposeful. They moved past her yard and toward the woods near ours like shadows being pulled back into darkness. Then one stopped, right in front of my father. He froze. It stood on 2 legs, towering over him, breathing slow, heavy, deliberate, its head tilted to the side, studying him, not mindless, not wild, thinking. The moonlight caught his face, blood slick across his muzzle, teeth too long for his jaw, eyes bright, aware, intelligent. It leaned closer, so close my father could have probably felt its hot, wet, rotten breath. I never heard my mother move or leave the doorway, but she pulled out one of the guns my father bought and stood a few feet behind him, with the gun pointed at the wolf creature. Then, without breaking eye contact, it stared at them both, then slowly dragged its tongue across its lips, tasting the blood still clinging there. My father and mother didn't move and didn't breathe, didn't blink, and then, just as suddenly, the wolf creature turned and ran, following the rest of the pack into the woods. Then silence, like nothing had ever been there. The street was dead silent, except for my father's breathing and knees shaking. It was right there, my dad kept saying. Right there, 10 feet from me. His hands wouldn't stop shaking as he gripped the coffee my mother had pressed into them. The cup rattled against the saucer every time he tried to lift it. I had never seen him like that. Not once. This was a man who grew up on the south side of Chicago, a man who had seen street fights, violence, things most people only hear about on the news. He was the one who taught me not to scare easily, but whatever stood in front of him that night broke him. Like he kept staring at nothing, like he was still seeing it, so still feeling its breath on his face. Like when the police finally went into Sabrina's house, they found what we already knew in our bones. She was gone, shredded, mauled, and bitten. Her body had missing chunks of flesh, not enough to kill her, like they were torturing her, making her death painful and long. The officers didn't say much, but they didn't need to. Their faces told the story, before their reports ever would. Female mauled by unknown animal. That was the part that haunted everyone. Predators feed, they don't punish. I think it was because Luke and Jackson went to hunt them and shot one of them. This was payback. We didn't stay in that house after that. None of us could. We packed what we needed and checked into a hotel suite across town. One room, lights on all night, TV playing even when no one was watching. 7 days of trying to breathe normally again. 7 nights of waking up at the smallest noise. 7 mornings pretending things could go back to the way they were. But something had followed us out of that neighborhood. Not physically, but inside us. And no matter how far we drove or how long we stayed away, none of us ever really felt safe again. Things stayed quiet for about a month. The cul-de-sac settled back into routine, but outside our street, people were disappearing. Missing persons reports crept up on the news. Homeless men and women vanished near wooded areas. Every now and then someone claimed they'd seen big dogs watching from tree lines. Then one morning my dad offered to drive Zaria and me to school. It was ordinary, cold air, heater humming, tires crunching gravel in the drop-off lane. Zaria got out of the car and started toward the entrance without saying anything. No wave, no thank you, nothing. My dad lowered the window slightly. "Zaria," he called gently, "what do you say?" She stopped, slowly turned, and in that moment, something inside me went cold, because I had seen that movement before. Not in daylight, not on a school morning, but in moonlight. Standing in the street, 10 feet from my father, her head tilted, not casually, not like a kid being playful or distracted, precise, the exact same angle, the same slow, curious lean to one side, like something studying prey, like something deciding. It was identical to the creature that had stood in front of my father that night. Tall, blood on its mouth, breathing slow, head tilted in quiet fascination before licking its jaws. The motion was so perfectly the same my stomach dropped before my mind could catch up. Then Zaria licked her lips, slowly, just like it had, and then she smiled, soft, polite. "Thank you, Mr. Red," and turned and walked away. I didn't move, because I wasn't just remembering what happened that night. I was seeing it again, every movement, every scream buried in the dark. And then the truth hit me like ice in my veins. The sweet girl I thought I knew, the girl I liked, the one who smiled at me in the daylight. She wasn't a girl at all. She was one of them. Every horrible thing I had watched those creatures do, every body, every half-eaten corpse, every shadow moving in the woods, it all rushed back to that moment, and suddenly it made sense. It wasn't some random pack of monsters. It was her, and her family. Slowly, I turned to look at my father. He wasn't surprised. He wasn't confused. His face looked drained, like the life had been pulled right out of it. Not fear, not shock, just the hollow look of a man who already knew. The monsters lived next door. I didn't say anything the rest of the morning. I couldn't. I felt Zaria staring at me like she was wondering how I would taste with barbecue sauce. I decided I wasn't going to give her a chance to find out. I went home after third period. The sun was up, and I kept looking over my shoulder to make sure I wasn't being followed by Zaria or her brother. When I got home, my dad was there. Apparently, he was just as freaked out as I was because all he said was, "You saw it too." Not a question. A confirmation. My throat felt dry. "Yeah," I replied. Then he nodded once, slow, like accepting a diagnosis he already knew was coming. "Come here," he said. He walked straight to the living room, closed the curtains, then locked the front door, then the back door. Then he checked the hall closet where one of the rifles was stored. Only after that did he motion for me to sit. He went to the cabinet beneath the television, pulled out a videotape, and slid it into the player. "I was going to show you and your mother this afternoon. I set up cameras around our home when we were in the hotel," he said. I had a bad feeling, and now I'm positive the tape played 4 boxes showed up on screen, each one displaying different days and time, but the same tall, lean shapes moving along the tree line, moving between houses, or just standing still in shadows. Then I focused on one image. It was early morning, fog low on the ground, and standing near the driveway. A figure mid-shift, not fully wolf, not fully human. Long limbs, curved spine, head partially turned toward the camera, and the face. God, you could still see her features, soft jawline, braided hair falling forward, eyes reflecting in the moonlight. "Zaria." My hands started shaking. "They're coming for us," I whispered. My father nodded slowly. "Yeah, and they aren't hiding it either." "I did some digging," he said quietly. His voice had that tone, the one that meant he had found something he wasn't sure he wanted to know. All this started after the Taylors came back from Brazil. The room felt smaller as he spoke. "I spent the last few days at the library, last week of their trip," he said. "They left the city, private guide, overnight excursion, outside populated areas." Outside populated areas. Something about the way he said it made the words feel heavier, like they carried weight, like they meant isolated, cut off, unreachable. He slid a Xerox newspaper article toward me, the Portuguese headline across the top, beneath it, his handwriting, careful, precise, translated line by line. "Tour group reports animal attack outside remote village. Multiple injuries, local authorities decline investigation." My throat tightened. The date, it matched the Taylor's vacation exactly, and suddenly I remembered Zaria, practically glowing with excitement before they left, talking about touring small towns, real Brazil, places tourists never see. My father leaned back slowly. "They were probably part of the attack, treated locally," he said. I shook my head, scanning the page again. "No official medical record," he mumbled. "No emergency report, no embassy contact, nothing. Like it never happened." He leaned forward then, closer than before, lowering his voice. "Whatever happened," he said slowly, "it was handled privately over there." Then he spoke again, quieter, more certain, like he had finally allowed himself to say what he'd been thinking all along. "I bet they were attacked by a Brazilian werewolf, a lobisomem. That's what they call them down there. They were infected," he continued, "brought the curse back with them, and now they're out here." His jaw tightened. "Killing our neighbors." The words landed like a body hitting the floor. "And if we hadn't taken that week away," he said slowly, "Kawikig, we would have been next." The memory clung to me, cold, suffocating. A chill crawled up my spine. Then I blinked. The living room was gone. The images on the screen, gone, all of it ripped away like a curtain being yanked back. I was standing in the club, music thumping, lights flashing, people laughing like the world made sense, but it didn't, because she was standing right in front of me, closer than she'd ever been before, more beautiful than I remembered, than anyone had a right to be. Her finger pressed lightly against my chest, playful, possessive. "Tyshawn Red," she said softly, almost amused. "You look good." Her voice was warm, smooth, intimate, and that terrified me more than anything I saw in those woods, because now I knew what she really was. I didn't move. Couldn't. My heart was pounding so loud I was sure she could hear it, smell it. Then she leaned in closer, close enough for me to feel her breath against my ear, and for just a second, I thought I saw it again, not the girl, the thing underneath. I felt her breath on my neck, got warm, the slow, deliberate, and then she inhaled deep, long, like she was pulling my scent into her bones. My stomach dropped, every muscle locked. My pulse pounded so hard it hurt. I squeezed my eyes shut for half a second, bracing for teeth, claws, pain. I was certain, absolutely certain, she was about to rip my throat open. Instead, she lifted her head. Those brown almond eyes met mine, calm, focused, almost glowing with something I couldn't name. "You smell good, too," she whispered. My legs nearly gave out. Fear crawled up my spine like ice water. My hands trembled, but I forced my jaw tight, forced my shoulders back, forced myself to stand there like I wasn't seconds away from breaking. If this was it, then fine. I swallowed hard. "Just kill me," I said, voice rough but steady, "and get it over with." For a heartbeat, nothing moved. Then her expression changed. Not hunger, not rage, something softer, darker, more dangerous. Her hand slid up my chest and on my neck, fingers curling lightly against my skin, and before I could breathe, she kissed me, not gentle, not hesitant, a claiming kiss. My mind went blank. Fear, confusion, adrenaline, something else entirely. And in that moment, I realized something far more terrifying than death. She didn't want to kill me. She wanted me. She pulled back from the kiss slowly, reluctantly, like something fragile had just broken between us. Her smile faded, not completely, but enough that something darker slipped through. Her eyes searched mine, not playful now, not predatory. "I hated you," she said quietly, "for a long time." Her voice wasn't sharp. "It's since that night, 11 years ago." The words hit like cold water. The club vanished again. The music disappeared. And suddenly, I wasn't standing in a jazz lounge. I was back there in my living room, back to that mid-morning, the one that changed everything. My father standing next to me. I could see him thinking. He grabbed his phone, pacing now as he called my mother. "Babe, call me back as soon as you get this message." His voice wasn't panicked yet, but it was close. Then he turned to me. "Tyshawn, go pack. We're going to your aunt's house." I remember grabbing the big suitcase, my hands clumsy, heart already starting to race, even though I didn't fully understand why. From the other room, I could hear him, drawers opening, closet doors sliding, things being thrown together, fast. Then his phone buzzed. He snatched it up like it burned. "Babe, where are you? I'm coming for you. We have to leave town." I could hear her faint, but calm, too calm. "Relax," she said. "I'm meeting Alicia Taylor for lunch in 10 minutes. She needs help. She's scared of herself and of the kids. Andre and some of the guys from the law office." "No." My dad cut her off, voice cracking now. "No, babe, it's a trick. Cancel. Do not go down there." Ding! We both heard it. The elevator doors closing. The line went dead. "Come on!" His hand grabbed my shoulder, pushing me out the door before my brain could even catch up. The car roared to life, tires screeching as we tore out into the street. 15 minutes, that's all it took. A drive that should have been 20 maybe 40 with traffic, 15. He didn't stop talking the whole way. Half prayers, half curses, all fear. We hit downtown. He jumped out before the car even fully stopped, scanning the lobby, eyes darting like he was hunting something or being hunted. Nothing. Restaurants, he muttered. They could have gone to one of the restaurants. I need to go. We moved fast. One place, then another. Nothing. Then his phone rang. He froze just for a second, then answered, babe. But it wasn't her. The voice that came through was calm, cold, familiar. Alicia Taylor. Your wife can't talk right now. Something in my chest dropped, and then she said it. Flat, almost amused. I just ripped out her throat. Maybe next time she won't point guns at my baby. My father staggered. I couldn't breathe. And then she let us hear it. My mother, choking, gagging. Then the sound of tearing flesh and skin. God, the sound of meat, muscle and bone. Everything coming apart. My father let out a sound I had never heard before. Not a scream, not a yell, just something disconnected his happiness and replaced it instantly with pain and sorrow. And just like that, it stopped. The line went dead, and I knew. Before he even lowered the phone, she was gone. The police came to our door just after sunset. I remember the flashing red and blue lights painting the living room walls, bleeding through the curtains like something alive. They said it was an accident. She ran off the road. Lost control of the vehicle. Instant death. Their voices were calm, professional, detached. My father wasn't. He broke, not crying, not screaming, breaking, like something inside him cracked clean through. It was the Taylors, Kalas, he kept saying, his voice raw, shaking, certain. They're monsters. You don't understand what they are. That's when Andre and Alicia Taylor arrived. Perfect suit, perfect posture, perfect composure, like they had stepped out of a photo shoot. Not a tragedy. The police questioned him politely, carefully. He didn't raise his voice, didn't argue. He just stood there, faint smile resting on his lip, hands folded calmly in front of him. If you have evidence, he said smoothly, produce it or a warrant and my family will cooperate fully. A pause, but you cannot act on the word of a grieving widower. His eyes flicked to my father when he said it. Cold, measured. That's when my father lost control completely. He lunged forward, calm, grabbed Andre by the lapels of his suit, fists trembling, knuckles white, breathing like an animal cornered. You killed her, he growled. You killed my wife. Andre didn't resist, didn't struggle, didn't even look alarmed. He just leaned in slightly, close enough that no one else could hear, and whispered something. I don't know what he said, but I remember what happened next. My father froze. His entire body went still. Then slowly, he looked at me, terrified. His hands loosened. He released Andre's suit and stepped back. My dad didn't slam the door when he came home. He eased it shut, slow. Then he turned to me, and I knew something had already crossed the line from fear into inevitability. They want you to Sean. His voice sounded like it had been scraped raw. They said one way or another, you will be theirs. My mouth went dry. The pack won't be denied. The words didn't sound like a warning. They sounded like a sentence already passed. He moved immediately, not rushed, not frantic, purposeful, like a man who had rehearsed this moment in nightmares for years. The living room floorboard creaked as he stepped into the corner and pulled up a loose panel. Metal glinted in the dim light. A handgun, loaded, checked, set on the table. Another panel slid open behind the bookshelf. Shotgun, shells lined carefully in cloth. Under the stairs, a rifle wrapped in oilcloth. Closet shelf, extra magazines. Inside the vent cover, more ammunition. I stood frozen as the house slowly revealed itself to be something I'd never realized it was. A bunker, a last stand waiting to happen. The sounds filled the air. Clicks, slides, metal locking into place, each one sharp, each one echoing, each one sounding like a nail sealing something shut. He packed extra ammunition into a worn canvas bag, hands steady, breathing slow, movements precise. Then he turned and shoved the bag into my arms. Stay close to me, but his eyes said something else. Stay alive without me. The house felt colder, like the temperature had dropped without warning. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small brass key, worn smooth from years of being handled, though I'd never seen it before. He knelt in front of me, slowly. If I don't make it tonight. The words hung in the air between us. Something inside my chest tightened so hard it hurt to breathe. This is for a safe deposit box, the bank near your mom's office. He pressed the key into my palm and closed my fingers around it. His hand lingered there, holding mine, not letting go. Inside you'll find our wills, insurance policies, everything arranged. His voice softened, barely steady now. You go to your aunt in Minnesota. She's expecting you. The hallway clock ticked again. I grabbed him and hugged him hard. His coat smelled like cold air and gun oil. You'll make it, I said into his shoulder. My voice sounded small, young, desperate. He didn't answer. His arms wrapped around me, tighter than they ever had before, like he was memorizing the shape of me. Then 3 soft knocks, patient. My dad froze. Slowly, he lifted his head. His eyes moved toward the door. Something outside shifted, faint, almost like footsteps on damp earth, too light to belong to a single person. He stood, picked up the rifle, walked forward. He unlocked the door and opened it. Zaria stood on the porch, perfectly still, streetlight behind her, casting long shadows across the yard, shadows that seemed to stretch farther than they should. Her face was calm, but her eyes shimmered gold beneath the surface, like something alive was trying to break through. She gave a small, nervous smile, the kind she always did when she was trying to be brave. Last chance, Mr. Red. Her voice was soft, not scary soft, just quiet, almost hopeful, like she really wanted him to say yes. Please, just let us have Tyshawn, and everything will be okay. She glanced toward me for just a second, and in that moment, she wasn't one of them. She was just Zaria, the girl next door, the one who used to laugh too loud, who raced me to the bus stop, who looked at me like I was something special. Then the night behind her shifted. At first, I thought it was just the wind moving through the trees, but it wasn't. Shapes started peeling away from the darkness, slowly, one at a time, from between the tree, from behind parked cars, from the long shadows stretching across the sidewalk. They stepped forward without a sound. Zaria didn't turn around. She just stood there, watching me, like she was hoping I'd understand, like she didn't want me to be afraid of her. Then the eyes appeared, one pair, the glow in the dark, then another and another, until the night wasn't dark anymore. It was watching. They stepped forward just enough for the moonlight to catch them. Zaria's family, not human, standing behind her like a wall of breathing shadows. My father raised the rifle. This time, his hands didn't shake, but his breathing did, like every inhale hurt, like he already knew how this ended. Zaria's eyes drifted to him, and for a second, just a second, something in her face softened, like she remembered who he was, like she remembered sitting at our table, laughing, or eating, like being normal. He will be taken care of, Mr. Red, she said quietly. He'll be the beta to my alpha. Her head tilted slightly that same familiar way. And we want you to join our pack. A pause, a flicker of something broken behind her eyes. Don't defy us like your wife did when she aimed the gun at me. The last words came out wrong, almost regretful, but satisfying. Then her pupils stretched and began glowing gold. Behind her, they moved closer, silent, 3 of them, 7 foot, hairy, bearing fangs and claws. My father's arms trembled now, the rifle wavering as it tracked her chest. "I'm making one more offer," she said, looking at my dad, her eyes locked onto his. "Join us or die," her gaze drifted to her family. "I chose it for them. You need to choose for Tyshawn." Then, boom! The shotgun blast exploded through the quiet like thunder, splitting the sky. Zaria moved quickly at the last second. Andre's chest snapped backward, bone fragments and dark spray bursting from his torso as the force hurled him off the porch. He rolled, then slowly began to get back up. "Get inside!" my father roared, but I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't look away. The wolves charged, all 3 at once. A wall of fur, muscle, teeth, and claws crashing toward the porch like a living avalanche. His father fired again. Boom! Alicia's shoulder exploded apart, spinning her sideways into the railing. The wood shattered beneath her weight. She landed twisted, then rose, bones grinding back into place with wet cracking sounds. Alex leapt, fast, a blur of claws and teeth slamming into my father before he could fire again. They hit the ground hard. The rifle skidded across the porch. Jaws snapped inches from his father's throat. Then a handgun's bang registered loud, point blank. 3 shots into Alex's skull. Bone burst outward in jagged fragments. Gray matter sprayed across the siding. Alex collapsed, twitching, limbs jerking violently. Andre crashed into them next. Massive jaws clamped down on my father's thigh. His scream ripped through the night. Andre shook his head violently, tearing flesh, crushing bone. Blood soaked the porch in seconds. My father was able to grab the rifle, pressed it under Andre's jaw, pulled the trigger. The blast tore Andre's head nearly in half. The wolf dropped instantly, dead. But Alicia was already there. She slammed into his father from the side, claws raking across his chest, shredding fabric, carving deep red lines into muscle. He screamed again, then grabbed her by the throat. Human strength should not have held her, but rage gave him something else. He jammed the barrel of the handgun into her open mouth and fired until the gun clicked empty. Her body convulsed, spasmed, then went limp. I stumbled forward. "Dad!" I screamed. Then I saw it. My father's leg, gone below the knee. Blood pulsed from shredded muscle and splintered bone, each heartbeat spraying the porch like it had been painted red. He was still breathing, still fighting. With shaking hands, he yanked off his belt and cinched it tight around what was left, turning it into a tourniquet. His face was pale, but he was alive. And Zaria, she hadn't moved. I grabbed the gun from my father's hand and aimed it at her. She just stood there in the yard, watching her father die, watching her mother collapse lifeless, watching her brother's body twitch in the dark, all of them reverting back to their human forms. No tears, no screams, just that same glowing gaze. Then, slowly, she turned and walked away. I haven't seen her since. Until now, here, and she just kissed me passionately. "Time to choose, Tyshawn." Her voice snapped me back to the present. "Why me?" I whispered. She smiled soft. "Because you were my first, Tyshawn. My first kiss, my first time, in your room after school, before summer break." Her eyes flickered, and then I left for Brazil. The memories of us, they helped me survive the bite. She stepped closer. "I love you. I know you called 911, she said softly, her head tilted like she was listening to something far away. "Too bad for the people here. I wanted to do this privately, intimately persuade you to accept my gift, but her eyes drifted toward the distant sirens. You can't save them. Then back to me, but you can save your father. She paused, or what's left of him. My stomach dropped. Then, how does he like living in Arizona? Everything inside me froze. How do you know that? No one knew. He disappeared to be safe, to forget that night. Zarya didn't answer. She stepped closer instead. I never forgot you, Tyshawn, and I know you haven't forgotten me. We belong together. Her voice softened now. Everything in me cracked. I knew what she was. I knew what she'd done. But I loved her. I always had. And that truth hit harder than fear ever could. It won't hurt much, she whispered. Her eyes searched mine. I want you with me. I made a choice, dangerous one. I stepped closer. I was always yours, I said. Her breath caught, just for a second, and she was that same girl again. Then she pulled me in, her arms wrapped around me tight, like she was afraid to let go. Her lips brushed my neck, soft, familiar, almost like before. Then the pain came, sharp, stinging, as her fangs sank into me, and this time I held on to her.
1 year later, Arizona was quiet, sunny, and a lot of sky. Too much space between everything that used to matter. Tyshawn's father sat alone at the kitchen table, the late afternoon light stretching across the floor like something trying to reach him, and failing. The house was clean, still, the kind of silence that didn't comfort. It lingered. Then, a chime. His laptop. From, Tyshawn read. His breath caught. For a moment, he didn't move. Then slowly, carefully, like the screen might disappear if he rushed it. He opened it. Images began to load. A photo Tyshawn, walking forward, his hand locked with hers like it had always belonged there. Zarya, happy, smiling. And Tyshawn. His son looked different, wild, ferocious, like something was wearing his son's skin. It was there in his posture, something unshakable. His hand trembled as he scrolled. Below the image, a message. Dad, I know this isn't what you wanted for me. It wasn't what I thought I wanted either. But it's what I am. And it's where I belong. I love you. Tyshawn. The house fell silent again. But this time, it felt different. He stared at the image, long enough for the screen to dim, then wake again. Tyshawn and Zarya walking forward together. His son didn't look like a victim, didn't look like something taken. He looked like a man who had stepped into something and didn't look back. He leaned forward slowly, one hand rising, hovering over the screen, tracing Tyshawn's face without touching it, searching, like only a parent can. His throat tightened. A breath caught somewhere between grief and something else. He stood up and used his cane to move toward his study, its north wall covered in years of obsession, maps, strings, photos. One name circled again and again. Zarya. Then he picked up a marker and wrote, Tyshawn, and a tear ran down his cheek. He turned, looked at it all. Then he reached for his gun. He just stood there. A father. A hunter. A man standing at the edge of two truths. And for the first time, he let one of them go and racked his rifle. Everyone dreams about the girl next door. Some even get the fairy tale. Marry her. Build a life. Share a name. But not every family photo tells the truth. Because in this house, the holidays don't come with laughter and music. They come with tension, thick enough to taste. A grandfather sits at the table, not carving turkey, but sharpening steel. Across from him, the woman he's sworn to kill, wearing the same smile that once fooled his son. And the children? He still takes them out for walks, Just not the kind you come back from unchanged. This isn't a family gathering. It's a ceasefire with dinner plates. It's eye contact that lasts too long. Silences that say too much. And love twisted into something that bares its teeth when the lights go out. So if this story pulled you in, if it made your pulse pick up just a little, if it made you glance at your own front door and wonder what might be standing on the other side, then stay close. Like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Because out here, the stories don't just live. They watch. They wait. And sometimes, they follow. And if you're ready for more, step deeper into the dark with my books. The Hunt for Dogman, Part 1 and Part 2, and Blood in Brooklyn, available now in paperback, ebook, and audiobook. Links are in the description. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting the channel.